walks onto stage. Good whatever, lady and gentlemen. Welcome to this Jaws 50th year special. As you may or may not know, Jaws is not a film I am particularly enamored with. Mainly because Jaws is of the horror genre. I do not find horror films entertaining. Pauses. Having said that, I do remember its influence on the culture of the period. This, along with its importance in filmmaking, makes it worthy of some note. Jaws tells a story, contains character development, and includes some memorable dialogue, which is somewhat unnatural to the horror genre. Smirks. Before I forget. Spoilers are ahead. Pauses. Jaws is named as the first summer blockbuster. Jaws was released in 1975, and was expected to do okay. Steven Spielberg had directed the film, and Jaws was his fifth film. Jaws cost $9 million, and made $260 million in 1975. So it must have done something right. Pauses. Jaws works as a suspense film, with a shark acting as an unstoppable murderer. With a trio aboard the fishing boat, the orca, or whale killer, acting as the detectives. Spielberg uses camera angles and the musical score to great effect, dramatizing moments in the film to iconic effect. Not bad for a 27-year-old. Pauses. Although some of the action is comical, which is why it was lampooned by the likes of Mad Magazine. Rolls eyes. Brody, the chief of police, is ineffective in his position. Brody had left New York City for the quiet life. Jaws is set in Brody's first year at Amity Island. Brody moved to Amity Island in the winter with his family. The film is set in the first week of July, with the 4th of July being Independence Day, and the start of the summer season for Amity Island. Pauses. On discovering Jaws's first victim's remains, Brody's initial response is to close the beach on public safety grounds. The town's authorities persuade him not to. Pauses. This is the start of Brody's redemption arc. Like an 8-bit computer game, Brody gathers the items of redemption for the boss battle at the end. Pauses. The townsfolk, comically, have a go at catching the shark, and luckily, only end up losing their Sunday lunch. Pauses. It is not until the shark consumes a child in front of everybody that the authorities decide that something must be seen to be done. Rolls eyes. With a consumed child's unfortunate family stumping up $3,000 for the capture of their son's murderer. Pauses. A flotilla of boats sets sail, bringing back one deceased tiger shark. What's that? Looks left. Unfortunately, Hooper measures the shark's bite, and it is too small to have caused the wounds on the shark's first victim. Looks right. Brody and Hooper decide to open up the beast's belly, whose contents includes a car license plate. The license number is a reference to the James Bond's film, Live and Let Die. Tiger sharks like a garbage can, it'll eat anything. Redemption item number 1. Pauses. With the shark caught, everything returns to normal, including the hilarious joke of attempting to cause mass panic. It was his idea. Pauses. Meanwhile, the shark swims into the pond, where Brody's son is learning to sail a boat with his friends. You tell by looking from the dorsal to the tail. Pauses. The shark consumes the boat instructor in front of the other potential snacks. Pauses. With Brody's son coming close to becoming the shark's dessert. This incident riles Brody enough to join Hooper on Quinn's boat, even though he hates water as much as he hates being eaten alive. Pauses. After the authorities agree to Quint's monetary demands, the trio set sail iconically through the jaws of one Quint's previous fishy victims. There will be more on Quint's past later, making the authorities glad they performed a background check on the man they agreed to pay $10,000 to, with $200 a day plus expenses. Looks left. Quint comes across as a bit of a prime donna rather than a fisherman. Looks right. I do hope he's not unhinged. Pauses. Now that the reason for the fishing trip has been established, the hunt for the killer shark is full on, and the action commences. The use of music and the barrels turns a dull outing into a suspense with high stakes. Quint starts off using a large heavy-duty fishing rod, expecting the shark to be like his other conquests. Pauses. However, his expectations quickly escalate to barrels attached to the shark. Using a harpoon gun. 1, 2. Pauses. 3. Even 3 barrels do not cause the shark any problems. Instead, the shark learns to hold a grudge. Pauses. And even tying the barrels to the boat backfires, with the shark dragging them out to sea in the lifeless boat. Whilst all of this is unlikely, it does make for a good tall story. Something that was common amongst the fishing community of the time. Pauses. Quint is played by Robert Shaw, an English actor with history and a drinking problem, whose personal character and acting abilities worked well. Pauses. Alongside Richard Dreyfuss, who played Hooper. Pauses. Quint crushes a can of beer upon finishing its contents, and the conversation whilst staring into Hooper's eyes. Pauses. Hooper replies by crushing his paper cup, staring into Quint's eyes. Pauses. Until this point, the shark had remained invisible to the characters. It is Brody who first sees it in its 27-foot glory, backing into the cabin to tell Quint, "You're going to need a bigger boat." The boat, the Orca, was 42 feet long. Pauses. Now that the size of the 3 men's task was revealed, it was time in the story to reveal the background story of the man charged with killing the beast. That night the 3 men get drunk and reveal themselves to each other, with Quint's account of the Indianapolis told as a chilling, fishy, horror story. Rolls eyes. Moby Dick is probably the most well-known seafarer's tale, although the monster in Moby Dick is a whale, not a fish. The Captain Ahab character in Jaws is Quint, a sailor with a grudge on sharks. And rather than a white whale, Quint is destined to chase a great white shark. Pauses. The shark interrupts their male bonding session, and the crew get a taste of how big a bite they took. Looks left. Whatever Quint throws at the shark, the shark has a response. 1, 2, 3. Barrels. Tying the shark to the Orca, dragging the shark to the shallows, even throwing himself into the shark's jaws. Nothing can stop this garbage can of an animal. Pauses. Brody, seemingly the only surviving crew member, fights the shark. Mano oh mano. It is in this fight to the death Brody crafts his survival from elements he remembers and the audience was shown during the film. Like that episode in Star Trek where Kirk fights the green lizard man. Gone to the death. Pauses. As an aquaphobe. Brody scrambles to the top of the mast, having lodged an oxygen tank into the jaws of the shark. Pauses. As an aside, it is interesting to note that the shark's mouth is not that sensitive, and as it attacks, it is blind to whatever enters its mouth. So the movie makes sense to a shark biologist, just not the audience. Smirks. Now all Brody needs is a clean shot of the oxygen canister. Smile, you son of a bitch. Hey, Brody. It's a great white, not a dog shark. Smirks. And pauses. Boom. Jaws is shark chum. Smirks. The shark in Jaws was an animatronic shark. Mostly people think the shark is unrealistic, but they have never seen a real shark. Sharks are pretty unrealistic. Pauses. Especially as they go in for the kill. Looks left. Does that look like a man-eater to you? Looks right. Even underwater, they do not look that real. Pauses. I never saw Jaws, the movie, until the 90s, and only then, on television. Although, as a piece of pop culture, I had been exposed to it. The Mad Magazine did an episode back in 1976. The main joke being the music that accompanied the shark whenever it was out of sight or on the hunt. Pauses. There's never been Jaws, the musical. Or has there? Pauses. There are more than a few sea shanties in Jaws. And the movie is, without the build-up, just a fishing trip that gets out of hand, with Quint being the one who maroons the crew on a forlorn journey to Davy Jones's locker. Pauses. Along with pop culture came the inevitable bath toy. Pauses. And slippers. Rolls eyes. Children, at the time, would replicate the horror of Jaws in the swimming pool, using one hand, and humming the Jaws theme tune, as they selected a victim, and moved in for the kill, painfully slowly, teasing out the moment, waiting for the rush out of the pool. Pauses. Or was that just me? Smirks. Does nobody remember the children's game? What's the time, Mr. Wolf? Pauses. Peace, I am out of here, word up. Exits stage left.